Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss Kiss, their Animalize album. This is their 12th studio album, released in 1984. Kiss is at this point fully embracing the MTV era. They had a pretty big comeback, if you will, with the Lick It Up album, where they took the makeup off, and the title track, Lick It Up, got a ton of play on MTV, and this sort of follows that. They had a big hit off of this with Heaven's on Fire. And my history with Kiss is kind of interesting. I've talked about this on the channel a bunch of times. I had an uncle that was only 10 years older than me, so when I would go over and see him, he was a teenager. When I was 7, 8 years old, he was 17, 18. And he was listening to a lot of Kiss, Ted Nugent, Cheap Trick, Aerosmith, bands like that. And so I was really into that. I would listen to his records, and I was into it. I thought Kiss was great. And he had like a live, he only went up to a live 2. I think he might have had, like a live 2, Love Gun. He had all that stuff. Everything up to and including a live 2. When I discovered AC/DC in 1980, I sort of forgot about Kiss. I just moved on from Kiss, and AC/DC became my band. And thus, I didn't really, for instance, I never got Dynasty and Unmasked until much later, like probably the mid 80s. And same thing with Creatures of the Night. And when Lick It Up came out, I was sort of interested in it, but I didn't buy that till later. And this album, I've never had this album. I saw it in a used record store a few days ago, and I thought, you know what? I don't have this. I want to get this. I've always liked the song "Heaven's on Fire," and the little bit of some of the other songs that I heard caught my interest, and I thought I'm gonna go ahead and get this. Although in my mind I was thinking I'm probably not gonna like this. This is more of them moving into their more glam phase, if you will. And to my surprise, there were some things that I really liked about it. It's sort of a little bit of a mixed bag for me, and we'll get into that. Again, this is the album that follows Lick It Up, and Vinnie Vincent was on Lick It Up, and I never liked Vinnie Vincent's guitar playing, his soloing, I should say. It was always like way too over the top for me, not enough melody. Here, this album features Mark St. John on guitar, and I really like his playing. I like the tone. He's definitely a shredder in the LA style, but that's what was in at this time. But I really like it. I think he adds a lot of really interesting guitar stuff on here. Unfortunately, this is the only album that he's on. I'm not a historian, so maybe people can fill in the blanks here in the comment section here, help us out with the history of this. But from what I read, he had some sort of arthritis, wasn't able to play. He really only played a couple shows, and Bruce Kulick landed up coming into the band and then being with the band for a little while. But I really like his guitar playing, and I think it would have been really interesting if he had continued with the band, because he has that shredding sort of LA vibe to him, but there's still a lot of melodicism to it. All right, the other thing about this record is that Gene Simmons was not 100% there from the things that I've read about it. He was more preoccupied with acting and just doing other things. And for me, it sort of shows on this record. The songs that I like least on this album are the Gene songs. The song that ends side 1, Lonely is the Hunter, I do not like that one at all. That's Simmons writing credit on his own there. Side 2, the first song that's a Gene song, While the City Sleeps, I think is pretty cool. So I like that one, and I like Burn Bitch Burn, which is the third one on here. And those are the Gene songs. But Murder in High Heels, Adelaide, the song that ends side 1 and the song that ends side 2, I do not like them at all. Lonely as a Hunter, didn't like it at all. Murder in High Heels, I hated that. It just sounded like flat, stale, Motley Crue. They're trying to be sort of rock. I don't know. I hated the groove and the feel of it. I don't like the lyrics. Just the whole thing just didn't work for me. Lonely as a Hunter, for me, again, just that sounded like a song that just really shouldn't have been good enough to make it on the album. So for me, it feels like Paul Stanley is really carrying the weight of this record. And I love the way the album opens up. I've had enough, Into the Fire. That's fantastic, man. It reminds me of like Creatures of the Night. era. It's a very hard driving metal tune with a fantastic chorus. Paul sounds great on it. Co-write with Desmond Child, who had written with the band before. He was a famous co-writer. You know, back in the 80s, it wasn't uncommon for bands to bring in an outside writer to help with songwriters. And Desmond Child was one of these guys that just had like, you know, millions of hits throughout the 80s. So he was an in-demand writer. Heaven's on Fire, I mentioned that already. I always liked that song. You know, I thought the video was fun. It's a super catchy song. It's the only song here that's, I think, lasted through their set list. I mean, I saw Kiss 2 years ago, maybe. And I'm almost certain that they played Heaven's on Fire. And so it's a fun song. I love it. It's got a cool kind of groove to it. Whereas Murder in High Heels, it feels flat to me. Heaven's on Fire has a lot of energy. And Eric Carr on drums, I should say, what an amazing drummer and one of the best drum sounds in metal. His drum sound on the Creatures of the Night album is just the stuff of legend. Here, his drums sound great. Heaven's on Fire is a good example of that. Get All You Can Take is okay. Now, side 2 opens with Under the Gun, which to me is very much in the same sort of vein as I've Had Enough, Into the Fire. It's fast. It's really driving. It's really great. Again, Paul Stanley really just using his range here. He just sounds great and powerful all over this record. My favorite song on this record, by far, easy decision, Thrills in the Night. I absolutely love this. This is a Paul Stanley one, co-write with Gene Beauvoir, not sure if I'm saying that right, who had played with the Plasmatics. Stanley sounds great on this. I love the vibe of it. I love the sort of, I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it's kind of a mid-tempo song. It's a little bit moody. The chorus in it is just great. I mean, I've only listened to this record, I think, 3 times now, and I can hear it in my head. You know, it really stuck with me. The sign of a good song. And yeah, I just love the feel and vibe of it. It makes me think of something that could have maybe been on Dynasty, and there are some songs that I like on the Dynasty album, so it sort of reminded me of that. Just fantastic song by one. Definitely my favorite song on this record. The production on it was produced by Paul Stanley. Again, it feels like it was probably, you know, Paul Stanley here pretty much driving all of this album, and it sounds good. You know, it's very, you can tell they had a budget behind them. It's very punchy. It's very full. I think the guitars sound good. I've read that they had to sort of, you know, work with his Mark St. John's guitar sound. But so yeah, I'm glad I got this record. Again, it's a little hit or miss. I tend to not really like the Gene songs on here, but Thrills in the Night makes it worth it. I've Had Enough, Into the Fire, Under the Gun. You know, there is some really, really cool stuff on here. And it makes me wonder if they could have gone on and kept, you know, if Mark St. John was able to stick with the band. And sadly, he's passed away, as of course Eric Carr has also. So yeah, a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed it. So I'm really curious, like, what do you guys think of Animalize? It's a terrible album cover. I don't like that album cover. I'm sort of having fun, like, grabbing albums that I missed out on. You know, I bought Accept to Eat the Heat. I did a video on that. I had Scorpions, Savage Amusement. I just did a video on that. These are all albums that, like, I had kind of checked out on that band, or checked out, like, with the Scorpions on metal in general. So it's been kind of fun, like, revisiting some of these albums that I really don't know, just skipped over for whatever reason. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of Animalize? I'm really curious. I know I have a lot of, you know, hardcore Kiss fans out there. Again, I'm like one of those people. There's certain albums by Kiss I absolutely love. The live one I think is just, you know, one of the greatest live albums ever. I love it. Absolutely love Creatures of the Night. But I'm also somebody who doesn't like chunks of their catalog. I don't like Unmasked. I don't particularly like The Elder. It was a little bit that I've heard from the stuff after the albums after this. I don't care for it all, but who knows? Maybe I got to revisit those too. So, all right, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.